Hello and welcome to episode 73 of the Insurgency Knitting Circle podcast. My name is Jack, along with Pat, and tonight we'll be discussing making connections with first responders, the pros and cons of getting involved with a volunteer fire EMS agency, and the day in the life of an EMS.
Take a freight train down at the station, and I don't care where it goes. I'm gonna climb a mountain, the highest mountain, Lord. Gonna jump off and nobody gonna know.
Hey, Jack.
Hey, what's going on, man?
So there's a weird number that popped up, episode 73, even
Yes.
though this is published on Uncensored Tactical.
Yes, and probably LMP, Liberty Mastermind podcast.
Correct. So if you're listening to this in the future, the Liberty Mastermind podcast as well as the Uncensored Tactical podcast are merging under one umbrella. And if you want the same episodes that you're used to with the same content and quality and guests and information and value, they are under one umbrella, and that is the InsurgencyKnittingCircle.com or the Insurgency Knitting Circle Discord or the Insurgency Knitting Circle podcast. So go ahead and check those out.
We're just going to call it IKC for short, because it's a mouthful.
Yeah, and not in a good way.
All right.
All right, so quick intro. So today we're talking about something that was brought up by our Discord members. They were interested in some topics.
Yes. We decided to combine them for just kind of an introduction to these, and then I'm sure these will be long standalone episodes as well, a little bit later on. So today's show is brought to you by Insurgency Knitting Circle and Uncensored Tactical. We're going to start having sponsors for the show.
All right. Segment 1, I guess, is our sponsor spot is IKC, and is the place for a true liberty and self-sufficient minded person. It's a place where you can go and be yourself, which is very important. And a place where you don't have to worry about snowflakes and Nancy's being offended about something you said. It's a place where you're challenged in your beliefs and encouraged to walk a path towards more freedom, more fitness, more self-resiliency, and much more.
That's right.
Segment 1 topics. Let's start hammering those out.
All right. How to best deal with cops when detained.
So this is establishing relationships with first responders. That's a segment. And yes, so bullet point number 1, how to deal with cops when detained. If you watch YouTube a lot, or Instagram or Facebook, a lot of people will say that there is no reason that you should ever talk to law enforcement without a lawyer. I disagree, but not in a police apologist kind of way. If you're going to be asked to incriminate yourself, or if you're going to be asked to explain yourself, or explain your actions, or your reasons for your actions, or what you're doing, I think it's completely reasonable to not talk to the police without a lawyer. And one of the best ways to protect yourself legally, and it's amazing when you tell police, no thanks, I won't be answering any more questions without a lawyer. It's like a stumbling fest. It's really funny to watch. Okay, well, shit, what do I do now? Well, maybe I can ask you some different questions. No, you can ask me no questions without my attorney. So this is not legal advice. I'm not even active in law enforcement anymore, but if you want to protect yourself, I would say definitely don't do that. Are there horror stories where you start out as a innocent bystander, and based on your interactions with police, you end up as a suspect or with some sort of charge? Yes, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one of the reasons I'll tell you that you should speak to the police if it makes sense for you to do so. And I'll keep it short. So your neighbor goes missing, right? Hey, you have any idea where they might be? Can you kind of help us find them? It's a kid, and we're looking for him. And you go, nah, you can go fuck yourself. Well, now you're just an asshole. If you don't have any kids tied up in your home, and you don't have any kids tied up in your trunk, and you didn't murder any kids or abduct them or sell them into slavery, I would say absolutely. The last time I saw that kid, he was riding on his bike. He was going that way. Great. We're done here. I'd be happy to help. You know what? I'll come help you look as soon as I'm done with whatever I'm doing. You know what? I'll stop doing that. Let's go look. I'll help you. Great. I think that's pretty clear cut, because here's the flip side. You have kids, right? Do you want your neighbors to go, well, I saw him somewhere, but I ain't saying shit to you, copper?
No.
So I guess just use your head. But I would, if I were to err, I would say I'd err on the side of protecting yourself. And I think lawyers are sometimes a great thing. That's it. That's my short. That's how I would deal with cops when detained. Oh, last bit. First and foremost, find out if you're being detained.
Yes.
And be very clear about it and respectful, and say, hey, are you detaining me? And when they go, well, I don't really know, then you go, okay, you can figure that out, and I'm leaving.
Yep.
That's a good way to do, because either yes or no. Am I being detained? Am I not? And sometimes I think it's moral, it's reasonable, it's lawful for them to detain you, even if they don't know what's going on in the scene or in the case. They go, you could very well be a murder suspect. I don't know. Some guy just got shot. So yes, you are being detained. Well, I'm innocent. Okay, that's great. Give us a few minutes to get your fucking name and maybe how we can contact you, and then we'll let you go. I think that's totally reasonable. If someone gets murdered 2 feet from where you're standing, and even if you're completely innocent, and even if you don't speak to the police without a lawyer, sure, you can be detained even if you're not a criminal. Yes. So Step 1, find out if you're being detained. Step 2, if it makes sense, just tell them, respectfully, I'd love to help, but I'm a little unsure of what I would say without my lawyer present, so I will only be answering any further questions if my lawyer is present. That seems completely reasonable.
Awesome.
I'm done.
All right. How best should someone go about initiating conversation with law enforcement without seeming like a wannabe or a badge bunny?
Oh, this one's great. The internet is the greatest thing for that ever. It really is. You can get on Instagram, and there's a lot of cops that openly are supported by their agencies, and they have very active Instagram pages and Facebook pages, or content. Some have their own side gigs or side businesses with websites, like the guys at DoorJam. I'm sure that their department knows what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Get involved with them on the internet first. That's one of the best ways to get involved with people, to learn about what they do and how they do it. The second best way you can get involved with your local first responders, or whatever type of activity they're involved in, whether it's fire, medical, police, is your ride-along program, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And there's also some civilian training courses and civilian training certifications that you can get through local agencies that are also a great way to get your foot in the door without seeming like a weirdo at the gas station that goes, hey, how many bullets are in that gun there? Enough. Oh, is that what's that yellow thing? I just 2 days ago I heard some freaking weirdo. I'd like to think I'm pretty good at reading people. Some fucking weird dude walks up to this airport cop and he's like, "What's that yellow thing on the belt there?" And the guy's real polite and he's like, "Oh, that's my taser." He goes, "Oh, well, how far?"
As he's reaching for it.
He goes, "How far can you shoot with that thing?" He goes, "Well, it depends on the cartridge, but usually, 20-ish feet, 21 feet." He goes, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, I just smiled. It's nothing you can't Google, dude. But yeah, he seemed like a weirdo. If he were asking me those questions, I would have been polite as well, but been like, yeah, okay, have a good day.
Yep.
So how to best initiate conversations? You have the internet, you have ride-alongs, and you have civilian courses from your local agencies that you can sign up for, like your Civilian Police Academy and things like that.
Yep. All right. How to best initiate conversations with fire EMS. Not while we're working. That's probably the wrong time to do that. I was cutting a car one time, and a teenage boy in flip-flops and shorts and a tank top shirt walked up to me and tapped me on the shoulder and asked me if there was anything he could do to help. That is not the right time to do that. It was a very stressful situation. It was a head-on collision. We had already lost 3 people. and I was working on the second car trying to get people out when he asked me that. So I turned real quick. I saw that it was just some random kid standing next to me, and I told him to get the. Hold on a second. All right, I'm just checking the store to see if there are any customers. I told him to get the fuck away, and I yelled it. I was not polite about it at all. And he moved to the edge of the car, and I turned in the other direction and started screaming at other people in the area working the scene to get that motherfucker out of here. I don't know why no one else didn't see him, why they didn't stop him immediately, but he made it all the way up to me as I was cutting a door. I was cutting a B-post. Anyways, that's the wrong time.
Is there a good time?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to ask us on the EMS side, if we're working on a patient, that might not be the best time to engage in a real conversation, but sometimes we'll explain what we're doing while we're doing it. I mean, we do that with people who are riding along with
family members
trainees or whatever. Yeah. We'll explain what we're doing as we're doing it. I don't really have a big deal or a big problem with that. But kind of getting aggressive and in my face when we're trying to do something is something completely different. I went to a call for chest pain. I don't know, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and this lady put us on Facebook Live. Mm-hmm. Her dad had chest pains, and she was Facebook Living the whole thing. That kind of pissed me off. That's not the best time to do something like that. But I mean, when we have downtime, we have downtime. So you'll see at stations, we'll be washing the trucks, whether they're ambulances or fire trucks, and just come in and ask questions. We love to talk about what we do.
And in fire, you got tons of free time, huh?
Yes. The thing is, when you're busy, you're busy. Like, when there's a fire, you are nonstop for the next few hours. EMS, a lot of times there's some bullshit calls, and you're not that busy. And then, sometimes there's some big calls, and, you're tied up for the next 6 hours. Same with fire too. Or, on the rescue side, if someone goes missing in the mountains, there goes at least the next 10 hours of my day or night or whatever. Maybe the next 3 days of my life. It's just kind of whatever. Ride-alongs.
Yeah, let's talk ride-alongs.
Are ride-alongs okay for police?
Sure, we'll do police first, and then we'll do yours, because I actually have some questions about the EMS and the fire stuff, too.
Okay.
So for police, here is my overview statement, which is similar to a lot of police questions. Every single state and every county and every city in the U.S. is different. It's my overview. Mm-hmm. What are some common themes? Some common themes are some agencies will only allow ride-alongs with people that are current law enforcement or former law enforcement or that are in the academy program to work at that agency. So
right.
The secret handshake club only. Some agencies will allow anybody into the car at any time, just, hey, come in, fill out a waiver, and pick a time and a day and a location, and we'll fit you into a car. And I think that's great, too. So within those two spectrums, you'll have different options. I do know that they will definitely run a background check on you, or they should, or they're going to say that they will, and for the most part, they do. So if you have any type of felony, chances are you're probably not going in the car. I know that every agency has different policies. Most of them are that even if you are law enforcement somewhere, you can't carry a gun. You have to dress professionally. You are riding in the car at the, what's the word? At the discretion of the officer. Yeah. So when he says ride along's over, it's over. Or when he takes you back to the station and drops you off and you're done, you're done. So that is the rough spectrum. We are going to do, if I haven't done it already, geez, I can't remember how in depth we went on uncensored tactical, but if we haven't, we'll do it again. If we haven't, we'll do it for the first time. If we did, we'll do it again. There are a lot of cool things you can learn from your ride along, and we're going to go way in depth later. But a short list off the top of my head is learn your community, learn about the different parts of your community, learn about how your law enforcement and your EMS, how they all work together, learn how dispatch works, learn about response times, and learn about the coolest thing that I think you can learn from law enforcement is what cops don't do during their shifts. So
Yep.
I'm not going to go too far down that hole, but it's really interesting to see what's different from TV because it's wildly different. And that's it. So my question to you, Jack, is does fire and EMS, do you guys do ride-alongs for curious civilians? I have no clue.
Actually, we do. Our EMS does. I ran one of our EMS buildings has 2 ambulances that ride out of it, and I was riding on the other ambulance when a ride along, just a guy seeing if he would like it before he, spent the time going to school.
Mm-hmm.
He was riding, and I thought he was already in school. He's like, no, just seeing if I like it. So it was interesting. He ran just like if he was a student. He obviously didn't really help out much. Maybe bringing bags in or something, I guess. But I'm sure he didn't touch patients. But he got to ride along. I don't know about fire. I've never seen anyone do it that wasn't already kind of in the process of becoming a volunteer. But it'd be the same thing. You wouldn't be able to touch a patient, or definitely wouldn't be able to go interior or really touch anything. You just kind of stand along on the sidelines and watch. But I really don't think any agency would have that much of a problem with it.
And I know we haven't talked too much in depth about your side of the fence yet, but you have fire, you have EMS, and rescue is a term that I know in Florida I wasn't really familiar with. We use the terms EMS and rescue kind of interchangeably in Florida, but you do something different, right? Can you talk about what that is?
Yeah, here, at least for the time being, after this year, it probably won't be this way, but rescue is separate from fire and EMS.
Mm-hmm.
We are kind of a mix between the two. So we do a lot of the medical stuff and a lot of the technical rescue stuff. The only thing we don't do is fight fires. And we will go to large structure fires and set up a rehab area. So when firefighters come out of the building, we'll help switch their oxygen tanks. We'll give them oxygen if they need it, or check their vitals or attend to them in any way that we can. But we also do the wilderness search and rescue. We cut cars along with the fire department. The fire department doing extrication, vehicle extrication and stuff like that, that's fairly new in this area, like maybe the last 15 years or so. But the rescue department has been doing that since the 60s or 70s here. But it's kind of going away. Rescue here the leadership has gotten lazy, and they refuse to become more specialized in areas. So it's kind of led to their demise, and I don't see us being around after this year or next year at the latest. Fire is pretty much doing all the stuff that rescue is doing right now.
Cool. Well, I'm glad we talked about that. That's enlightening. And like I said, we used to just get on the radio and say, hey, can you have rescue head over here? And it was an EMS truck. So that's something I wasn't familiar with. what should I expect on a ride along? That's one of our questions. We kind of got into that a little bit. I know for police, you can expect to get in the car. You can expect Murphy's Law to kick in, and you'll see almost no action at all. That happens a lot to guys that are younger and excited to do a ride along. The cop that you're with will go, "Yeah, I'll find you something tonight," and then it's silence on the radio.
Yep.
You can be prepared to sit in a car with AC on full blast, even if it's a cold night, because your officer will have long pants and a polyester uniform and a belt and an undershirt and a vest and a long sleeve shirt or dark polyester shirt and his gun belt, and that AC is just going to pump out cold air, and so dress warm. You can expect lots of sitting in the car for a long time. You can expect traffic stops are the easiest thing to do if you're looking to be active in law enforcement. So you can expect to pull over a few cars. Depending on your officer and your relationship with him, you can expect to sit in the car and watch for the first few. You can expect to get out and talk to the other cops nearby while things are happening.
Just about to ask that.
Yes, that's a great time to get into those kind of like long, detailed talks. Is something specific is happening, and there's a bunch of other cops standing around just there to help out. Those are good times to go, "Hey, I got a question about this," and they'll, for the most part, they're happy to tell you.
Right.
What else can you expect? Like I said, based on your relationship with the cop, there are liability issues you have to worry about, but I know very frequently with me, it's been, "Hey, here's the combination to my rifle rack. Here's where the shotgun's at. Here's how you open the trunk. Here's where my first aid kit is at. And if I'm fighting, you're fighting." And I was like, "Great, sounds good to me." That's really common. If you're a 60-year-old lady and you just kind of want to get to know your community better and you're raring to get involved, I also don't think there's anything wrong with sitting in that police car and hitting the door lock button and just calling for help on the car radio. So, of course, the answer is it depends, but that's some of the things you can expect. One of the other cool things you can expect on a ride along for police is a tour of the police station, to see different facilities that you might not have known existed, like substations or working with other agencies or departments within the county. So going up to like the city hall or going out to satellite spots. So those are some things you can expect on a police ride along, but we'll be going much more in depth in the future.
Awesome. So an EMS ride along, what can you expect? Lots of sitting around, lots of dark humor. If you're easily offended, that's probably not the place where you want to hang out. Lots of blood, guts, brains, shit. Lots of shit. You'd be surprised at the amount of poop that you will have to deal with.
Yeah.
God, it's just ridiculous. You will get to see that people have no idea what you really do. You'll get to see that people think that you're a taxi. I'm serious. It's always at the most inconvenient time. I took a teenage girl to the hospital, I don't know, 1 or 2 in the morning, somewhere around there, because she had the flu. And when we got there, there were 5 adults and her 18 or 19-year-old boyfriend. All awake, all there. None of them could take her to the hospital. You see stuff like that a lot. See, there's a lot of stupid stuff you gotta put up with, but there's a lot of cool stuff too. So, you might have to dive into a car and hold C-spine while fire throws a blanket over you and starts punching out more windows and cutting the tops off a car, and you're there securing the patient and letting them know that everything is going to be okay. That's always fun. Or getting into fights with meth heads. That's That's always a bit of an adrenaline rush. Um, there's just so much. I mean, it's so varied. I would suggest riding along. It can be a lot of fun. It can be pretty boring and frustrating, but it's a lot of fun too. Fireside, I mean, you get to see some cool stuff. After a fire, I'm sure they would take you through and take you into the structure and show you things like how you can tell where the fire started from, um, what they did once they were inside. I mean, just all sorts of really cool stuff. It's really interesting. And then, you can help them wash the trucks and sweep the bays and mow the grass and all the other downtime stuff that they do.
What's our next one?
Civilian training agencies. I just threw that in there because you talked about that a second ago.
Okay. I think Texas Joe does a little bit of it. I think he does some search and rescue too. I know in Florida, a lot of counties will have their own county CERT team, or CERT, civilian
Emergency
something.
response
Yeah,
team.
and
I'm actually the training officer for Pickens County CERT. I don't know if you knew that. Or the safety officer, sorry. I don't even know what I am.
I did not know that. I love a good safety officer. There's nothing like someone that doesn't know how to do my job telling me how to do my job. I'm very familiar with that.
CERT's a pretty good organization. If you can't do a lot of the stuff that fire, EMS, or law enforcement does, but you still want to help out, CERT's a really good organization to be a part of.
And
you get hands-on training with CPR and search and rescue, basic triage, mass casualty triage. I teach that for CERT sometimes. I usually teach the medical portion when we do a CERT class. I mean, you get some fairly cheap gear, but you can always upgrade that on your own. And you get to meet lots of kind of like-minded people. And you'll get to help out. Like when there's an emergency in your area, like a big emergency, you'll get kind of insider knowledge into what's going on because you'll be out there helping. So that's always nice.
Sorry.
All right. No, you're fine.
One of our Discord members sent me something on Instagram, and it is really fucking cool. We'll talk about it maybe at the end of the program. I was replying to him.
Oh, cool. We will be... actually, you want to take a quick break from the format and answer some questions on Discord?
Let's do that.
All right. Let's see. Grimoire says, I'm sure you guys do multiple open house events throughout the year. Fire does here. EMS does not. I don't know if you'd really want to go into an EMS. I mean, it's like a house, but annoying. So, I mean, it's not dirty or anything. It's just, kind of bare. We've got couches and TVs that don't have a cable or usually even local channels.
Jeez.
We got, single beds and yeah, I mean, it's not a cot, so that's good, but most of the time you're not in there, so it doesn't matter. Fire has all the cool stuff, so they do lots of open houses and stuff like that, so that's always fun. Blue Line Comms says, rescue, don't meth with us.
That's a good t-shirt.
It is. Oh, man. Let's see. I guess that's all the questions right now. They were just talking a bunch of shit in there. I thought there was lots of questions. I was trying not to read and be distracted.
Cool.
All right.
Segment 2.
Segment 2. Pros and cons of fire. Sorry, let me try that again. Pros and cons of volunteer fire and rescue. And this portion is brought to you by Uncensored Tactical.
So I think I have a few sponsors I'm getting ready to reach out to, but I think we should finish our housekeeping and rearrangement first.
Yep.
But we'll hold this place value. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and check. I mean, it's on an Uncensored Tactical podcast. But if you're listening to this somewhere else, check out uncensoredtactical.com. Tons of cool value there. Always growing and very open to audience requests for topics, which is what this show is. So,
yes.
Segment 2.
And we're also working on a new website for Uncensored Tactical, and it'll have lots of focus on the training courses and all sorts of good stuff.
Correct.
All right. Pros and cons of volunteer fire and rescue. And I guess you want to do law enforcement too in that?
Yeah, I'll do that one at the end when we're done.
Okay, cool. So I've got 2 pros and 2 cons. The first pro is training. You get so much training, so much awesome training. It's great. If you like to learn new shit, that's the place to be because you learn stuff constantly. You want to learn how to rappel? You can do that there. You want to learn how to cut cars? You can do that there. You want to learn how to put out fires? You can do that there. You want to learn CPR or how to administer Narcan or what to do if... Did you see that picture floating around of the motorcycle versus tractor and the guy's lung popped out of his chest?
Holy crap. No, I didn't.
Yeah, dude, that was awesome. You could possibly learn what to do in that situation. That's one of those where you walk up and you pause for just have a second. You're like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Okay. And then kind of jump down and get busy. It is very pro-family. It is like an extended family. I mean, you're immediately brought in and welcomed with open arms. Everyone's super friendly, ready to train you, do whatever they can to help you. It's just a big extended family. And especially with fire, anywhere you go in the country, you say you're a fireman and you tell another fireman in that area and there's an instant bond. I'm sure it's that way with cops too.
Yeah. Don't start, Jack.
Not so much EMS. EMS likes to talk shit about each other constantly. Which I never understand, but whatever. Cons. Training.
I noticed that was a pro as well, so I'm excited to hear this one.
There is so much training. I love to learn new stuff. But man, sometimes like the requirements. Okay, so I just recently joined the fire department. I'm currently the captain of Pickens Rescue, but I know that that rescue is going away, so I joined the city and the rural fire department. The rural fire department, there wasn't much in the way of classes that I needed to take, just a basic firefighter entry-level class called 1152, and that's pretty much it. Then if I wanted to take other stuff, that's fine. But city fire, he was like, okay, you need to get 1152, you're an EMT already. If you want to become a paramedic or advanced EMT, we encourage that. You'll need pump ops, you'll need hazmat, you'll need firefighter 1, firefighter 2. Those are all requirements. And I mean, that's probably a good 2 years worth of training without the extra EMS stuff. Plus I plan on taking the technical medical practitioner class this fall and this coding course coming up. So I've got lots of training coming up. which is good, but it can also be draining. And that leads into the second con, and that is time.
Mm-hmm.
It takes up a lot of time. Now, granted, there are some people who get the T-shirt, and that's about all they do. They just, like to wear the T-shirt to say that they're firefighter or EMS or rescue or whatever. And that's really the only time you see them is like functions and any chance they get to show off that they're part of that group. But there are, things happen during the day, things happen at night, and you're not getting paid for it if you're a volunteer. So you may have a fire at 2 or 3 in the morning, or a wreck because some drunk driver hit someone else or hit a tree or hit a bear or whatever. I don't know. And you got to get up and go to those calls, and it may be 3 or 4 hours before you get back home. And if you're like me, you get your adrenaline pumping, and I can't go back to sleep, so I'm up for an extra 2 hours after a call. And then, hey, that was your night. Now it's time to go to work.
That was actually one of my favorite episodes we did on sleep, first responders and sleep. It used to be a passion of mine. I used to talk to a lot of people about that during operations and deployment.
Yeah. Sleep is important.
Oh, yeah. You know what? So you were talking about all that, and you said if you're a volunteer and you show up to that 3 a.m. call, you're not getting paid. I know it sounds so weird, the word volunteer, but I know there are places where you volunteer, but you're paid. I know we might have talked a little bit about that before, but I think we need to get a specialist.
So when I say you're not paid, I mean you're not like you get paid, but it's very little. And it's like once a year, you know. So like I know fire gets paid more than rescue does. On rescue, we might get $1.50 a call. So, or maybe it's like $1.50 an hour or something like that. After like 2 hours, then you start accruing another $1.50 every hour or something like that. I don't even pay attention because it's such a small amount. I'll run, 200 or 300 calls a year, and my quote unquote paycheck.
Hold on. You hear that in the background?
For some reason.
I'm going to hit pause. Technical difficulty fixed. We're back on air. Sorry about that noise in the background.
So as I was saying, I get a paycheck once a year, but it might be $500. I mean, it doesn't even cover the gas that I spend in driving, to the call in my own car, or definitely doesn't cover the equipment that I purchase on my own. I have my own search and rescue equipment. I've got a full setup in my back, in the back of my vehicle.
That's right. We went over that in vehicle EDC, or everyday carry.
Yep. Where was I? I kind of lost my place all of a sudden. And he just walked away. So it doesn't cover that. It doesn't cover hardly anything. As a matter of fact, I give the money to my wife as kind of a thank you for letting me go play at all hours of the day and night. I know maybe play is kind of a bad word or the wrong word to say, but it's life and death stuff for the people that we're helping, but it's also fun. So yeah, let's take a little pause because we're finished with that segment and answer any questions. You guys on the Discord have any questions? Grimoire says property tax breaks here for all of their volunteers. Yeah, we get a 3% tax break here in South Carolina, but you have to run a certain amount of calls, and make a certain amount of meetings and doing a certain amount of training. So that's about it. Just 3%.
All right.
Oh, and a small pension after 15 years. Well, New York is full of pensions and pansies and socialists, so whatever.
Well, I'm very excited to go teach in New York soon, but I'm also
Yeah, me
not excited to be in New York.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get together a tactical medical class
Yes,
for that, and maybe we can do a joint thing. Go have some fun in New York.
that sounds awesome. Can you certify people in that? Are you a instructor certifier? Or would that just be a skill set builder for people that want the skills? Because I know there's two types of people.
I should be a TCCC instructor by then.
Cool.
Grim says 2 assholes in New York. Dude, there's millions of assholes in New York. So anyways, yeah, I should be an instructor in that by then, I hope. I don't really see why I wouldn't be. So yeah, I can do that for TCCC, TECC, but I want to teach more of a real life scenario. I don't want to necessarily use the little cases with the little piece of silicone that you squirts blood out. I want to have like a real simulation.
I love it.
Because people aren't still and calm when you're packing a wound or using a tourniquet, or there's lots of stuff going down.
People are different than training tools.
Oh man,
dude,
not at all.
One of my favorite quotes ever. I was on a team in the Coast Guard that did actual operations and missions, and we wore actual guns and dealt with actual bad guys and real people, and took actual evidence and actual custody.
Mm-hmm.
You see where that's going, okay? Beating that dead bush.
Yes.
So we get 2 guys from the Coast Guard counterterrorism team that join my unit. So it's like 6 of us and these 2 guys who are number 7 and 8 on the team, but they just came from the counterterrorism unit. And they're like pumped up, and it's our first actual operation of the deployment. So we're like, all right, we're going to go hit this boat, and here's the procedure. We do A and then B and then C. And they're like, okay, someone grab the gun and make sure you're loaded, and I'm gonna go with the. I'm like, whoa, hey, calm down, man. And he's like, what? I'm like, I'm your boarding officer in charge of this operation. I'm like, you're not even qualified yet. I'm like, when it's your turn, you can make all those decisions, but I'll handle it. So I'll make sure we get the EMT bag, and I'll make sure we get the the evidence bags. I'm like, I got it. We all have done this before as a team. It's okay. He's like, wow, fine. I'll grab the EMT bag. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Go get him, Tiger. So we get back in the office after one of the operations, and all 8 of us are sitting around, and we're having this, because it's within the Coast Guard, that community. There's hate against other units, just like every other military branch and every other first responder organization. And I'm like, yeah, well, welcome to the real world. It's, now we're doing real operations. That's cool that you guys got lots of training. I'm sure it was really good. But he's like, I get interrupted, and then one kid goes, I cleared the shoot house in 2 minutes and 30 seconds once. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, that's really something. I'm like, I forget what dumbass sarcastic phrase I used, but something along the lines of, that's really impressive when that paper doesn't shoot back at you. And I also, it's funny because A, I don't know how big that shoot house was. B, there's no context, how many guys. C, is there a grading system? Did you do it and suck? Did you do, it was a really wild statement as a defense against yourself at being a great operator. But there's also 14-year-olds with airsoft guns that could probably do the same thing when you're shooting just paper. It's cool, and You probably know how to walk down a hall and turn through a door. And I'm not being facetious. Like that, doing that the right way is important.
Oh, yeah. That's very important.
That's one of my favorite quotes of, I shot that paper faster than anybody else. And I'm like, good job. That's good. Well, here, this is IRL in real life. Sorry for the. I did pretty good this episode so far. That's my one rabbit hole. Let's jump to the next segment. Yes, we should definitely do a course with real training, as close to real as we can get.
Yeah. Maybe I'll shoot someone in the leg and can fix them up. Just randomly. Looking at you, Grim.
Segment 3. Right,
Day in the life. So I guess we're going to talk about a quick kind of rundown, maybe 1,000-foot overview of what life is like. So I'll start with EMS. Okay. So for me, I usually work nights since I, own the store, and I'll work here during the days. Some days, like on Sundays, I might do a 24 or something like that. But usually I'll walk in and grab a call pretty close, right off the bat. That'll take an hour or so, and then we'll run back and sit around.
Where's this starting at? 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. or what?
It's usually starting about 8 p.m.
8 p.m. So after your either work day or off day, whatever it is, at the store, 8 p.m. You go out and you grab a EMS call.
Usually, I'll leave the store a little early and let my wife close up, and I'll head over and head over to a station, and we usually catch a call pretty close after right after I get there, and we'll run a call or two and then come back, and usually I'm a white cloud, and we'll run one or two more calls the rest of the night. And then there are days like last weekend where I walked in at 7:30 and we caught a call and went ahead and took it instead of the guy that was on shift, and didn't get back until midnight. And I made my bed, laid down for about 20 minutes, got another call, and went out and got back about 4, I guess. Laid down for probably close to another 20 minutes, caught another call, and I didn't leave that station until 9 that morning. And I was supposed to leave a little before 8 so I could drive to another station and work another 12 hours at that station. So I left at 9, got to the other station. We caught a call and did not get back until 5 o'clock that afternoon. So I napped on the couch for an hour, and then we caught another call and finished up right about 8, and then I left and went home. So in that 24-hour period, I slept like an hour. That's off for me. That's not a typical day for me. People usually like working nights with me because they know they're going to get to sleep.
I was going to say that before you started, but I was also just happy to see where you went with it. There's different types of days.
Right.
So that's good. That's a busy day. What could you expect on a day where you're doing a lot of work? I think that's a great answer, because you know what the other answer is? I slept all day.
Yeah, so. Literally all day.
So do you have anything else to add?
Well, I was just going to go ahead and do the fire rescue side.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So the volunteer fire rescue side, it's just you go about your day, you do your normal stuff, bam, you get a call.
Like at home or at work, right? Like not with... Okay.
Home, work, yeah. For fire, we carry pagers, and for rescue, we carry radios. Mm-hmm. So I have a pager and a radio on me at all times. And we get a call. If the pager goes off, I know I'm going to a fire or maybe a wreck. But usually they're in the same area because rescue is a very large area, and Pickens City and rural is kind of a smaller area. So we'll catch a wreck, then I know I'm going to be gone a couple hours. And I'll go do what I need to do, come back. We catch cardiac arrest. I might be gone 30 minutes. I might end up working in the back of the ambulance on the way to the hospital. I might end up driving the ambulance. I don't know. It just kind of varies. It might be 20 or 30 minutes that I'm gone. It might be 3 hours. You just don't know. And then, if there's a lost person in the mountains or someone's hurt in the mountains, that's 10 to 72 hours or whatever.
I would love to do an hour on that, but can you give me like 5 or 6 minutes on how that works out start to finish?
So yeah. I don't keep my 72-hour pack in my car. I keep that at the house. During the winter, I don't even really keep my Camelback, which is a Camelback backpack, in my car. During the summer, I will, because we go out there a lot more during the summer. But so I keep all my gear in my car. And I mean, that includes, I have a little chest rig that has my compass, and it has mapping tools and a little bit of first aid stuff. Man, I'm trying to think of everything that's in there. Extra pin, a pace counter, stuff like that. Notebooks, things to mark for evidence and for tracking, stuff like that.
Okay.
So I'll keep all that in a chest rig, and I'll throw that on. And
I'm guessing that's a lightweight chest rig.
Yes, yeah.
Not
it's
like
not
a go fight Iraq chest rig.
No. This is not. This is basically like an admin pouch.
Yeah.
With 2-inch nylon webbing that just kind of goes around the front. It's super lightweight. There's not even a back to it. So I'll throw that on, and I'll head to wherever we're staging. And since it's search and rescue, that falls under rescue's command. So if I'm the first one there, then I'll set up command, and I'll start issuing roles to people. If I'm not the first one there, then I will show up and I'll receive a role. Usually that's being on a team. And we'll get teams together, and we will get together with the sheriff's deputies and find out where we are. See, you threw me off. Pat just typed.
Well, here's what happened. I missed my chance in real time, so I just made a comment on our Discord, which you should check out if you haven't yet. I said, Jack wearing his backless chest rig and his assless chaps on a rescue call.
So anyways, I will...
So you get with the sheriff's office, you set up your command.
Yeah, we set up command, we go to sheriff's office, and we find out where the last ping from his cell phone was, or we listen to the 911 call sometimes. It's really funny, man. When someone gets lost or hurt out in the mountains, they have just enough cell phone battery left to contact 911 and say, I'm in the mountains. I'm about here. Maybe they get here out, and then the cell phone dies.
That's so funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny.
You'd not, I mean, seriously, like 98% of the time, that's what happens. So, we get an area, we might have to plot it out, and give people, say, hey, you take this section of the map, this section of the map, this section of the map, and then we'll go out there, and sometimes we get coordinates and we have to go by that. We'll go out. If we know they're off trail, we'll do that. If we're pretty sure they're on trail, we'll kind of walk that trail from different ends and Then we'll kind of make another game plan from there once we've done that. Um, if we know someone's hurt at the top of the mountain, and guys, the mountain here is like 3,900 feet? It's like our highest mountain here. I mean, it's not really high at all.
There's that one that you
So
can see. You're in South Carolina, so you can see North Carolina from one of yours, right?
yeah,
That's pretty cool. I want to go back there.
it
I think we're
was,
gonna
it was
in 2019.
yeah, it was beautiful, wasn't
Hmm.
it? So if someone's hurt, then we'll grab extra gear. We'll grab rope gear if we need it. We'll grab extra medical gear. We'll whatever we need, and hike an hour and a half or so up the mountain, and then it's usually about 5 hours back down. It just depends on the person, how many people we have, how many times we have to stop, how critical the person is. I mean, if they're in a critical situation and we can't fly them out, then we have to stop every 5 minutes to take vitals, and that takes time. So we've got a Stokes basket, which is it's a long basket that you fit in that the sides kind of come up, and we've got this big giant wheel, looks like a wheel on a ATV, and we can attach that to the center underneath the Stokes basket, and instead of physically carrying people down the mountain, we can wheel them down. So that's nice, but still it's slow. It takes a long time to come back down. What else you want to know?
That was it. I loved it. I've always been real curious about that, and if I didn't join the Coast Guard, I probably would have tried to do some TAC-P or PJ or pararescue for the Air Force.
Yeah, man, if
That would have been
PJs
fucking
had
cool.
been around, if they had been created when I was in high school, knew what that was, I would have been like, sign me the fuck up now. That would be so fun. Anyways.
All right, so that was a day in the life for your EMS and your rescue, right?
Yes.
Cool. Let's do so what I said earlier was I was going to ask you what type of day, like you have a busy day and you have a rescue day, like they're all different. So it's tough to answer that sometimes. I know for my Coast Guard job, people would always ask me what it's like because a lot of people were curious and didn't know we did that, or they didn't know to what extent we did that. So they'd say, hey, how do you like your unit? What do you do? What's like a normal day? And I'd say, well, we have 2 or 3 types of normal days. We have I'll do a really short one for the Coast Guard, and then I'll do one for law enforcement. So
okay.
I really do want to just fucking give mouth vomit of this answer for an hour. So we will do that in the future. But for today, keep me in check. Here we go.
Okay.
For the Coast Guard, you're either in country or you're out of country. If you're in country, you're either at the office or you're doing training at pick a place in the U.S. where you can rappel or do medical or go shooting, go to the range, whatever. But you have your office days, and then you have your deployment days. So for the office, you show up. The first thing you do is you take your little roll call, do your attendance with your. When I was at my tactical law enforcement team, it was about roughly 100 guys. You all line up on the basketball court outside, and someone from the command comes down, takes attendance, and you go, "Yep, we're all accounted for. No one's dead." Excuse me. Then you have a couple hours, like 2+ hours, to do physical fitness, and sometimes it's structured, and sometimes it's whatever you want. When that's over, you go back to your office, you get changed out, you shave your face, put your uniform on, and then you have like an official meeting, just like you see in the movies or boot camp, where you line up based on your team and your rank, and you all salute, and the CO walks out and gives a big speech, then you break it up and you come into a circle, and then you're done with that, and then you go into smaller meetings with your teams, and you go over all the same information, and then by then it's lunch. So what you've accomplished in 6+ hours is just a workout, and then stuff that could have been sent over an email. And we really just dick around as much as we can all day.
Yeah, there's a lot of paperwork in fire and rescue and EMS too. There's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah. There's a lot in law enforcement, which we're going to get to in a minute. In the Coast Guard, there was shockingly little paperwork. There was sometimes administrative actions that had to happen, but it wasn't a lot of. There really wasn't in my job a lot of typing shit up on the computer. So in the office, after lunch is over, really all you're doing is maintaining your current team's qualifications and certifications. So, you're planning your next trip to the range, or you're planning who you're going to send to which school next. And that's not very hard at all. And then you just go from team to team, and you walk back and forth to the little, it's kind of like a convenience store on base, and you get yourself a Arnold Palmer and Snickers bar, and you go back to the office, and put your feet up, and you're like, well, there's 9 of us on this team, and there's 2 computers. So, okay, I'm going to go home early, and that's it. Like, that was a normal in-country day for my Coast Guard drug unit. Now, every day wasn't like that, but a normal, non-busy office day, like that was it. And like I said, the other days were off-site training, which were very busy and very demanding, or you're out of the country. So a normal, I'll keep it super short, a normal day, and I'll say that there is no drug bust. Like, maybe you do an operation, but there's no drug bust. So normally our Coast Guard tactical law enforcement teams were stationed either on a U.S. or a foreign allied Navy ship, like the British, the Dutch, the Canadians. So you're on this Navy ship tooling around in the ocean, in the Pacific or the Caribbean. You wake up around 7 or 8-ish. You eat, if you're on a foreign ship, you eat really good breakfast. If you're on an American ship, you eat shit. And then usually the only 2 requirements, Monday through Friday, that the teams had to do, the Coast Guard teams of about 6 to 8 people we were classified as ship riders for the Navy. So we didn't have a quote-unquote job to do all day unless there was a mission, which was good. So we did a lot of maintaining. So the 2 things that had to happen were you have to work out once a day, and usually that was unstructured. So at some point during the day, hit the gym. And the other thing that had to happen was training. So we have to get together around noon. We usually did it after lunch, and we said it could be 10 minutes or it can be 3 hours, but we're going to learn something new today that's specific to our job. I love that. So I was usually teaching some TCCC, or we were plugging IVs in each other, or we were taking our guns apart, cleaning them, putting them back together, doing races, or sometimes as a team, like we would do some sort of weird relay workout race up on top of the ship.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Oh, it was great.
We should do live video
Oh, that would be cool.
gun
Yeah.
stripping races or something like that.
I got 2 things to talk about at the end of the show. Both are lockpick related, but you're going to love it. Let me write it down. 1 was the box, and Grim knows what that is. And 2 is
Hotbox.
Skype mail test. All right, cool. So let me get back on track, and then I'll close it up shortly. So afternoon, we do about an hour-ish of training related to our jobs, and this was for the Coast Guard law enforcement team I was on. And we're on a Navy ship, and we're just tooling around the ocean, and 24/7 we have a Coast Guardsman, just one, kind of loosely just checks in the super secret part of the Navy ship. They just check the chat room where we are with Coast Guard legal and with our intel people. We just chat back and forth throughout the day, and we say, hey, we're looking for these types of boats. We're looking for a boat in this area. Hey, can you guys go check this out? Like, it's really minimal on the effort side. We're basically just looking for a target of opportunity or a target that we have intel on. That's it. We're just tooling around the ocean. Let's say we get a boarding that we don't find drugs, like we just kind of run up alongside and chit chat with a boat and then go home. What that would be is we were lucky enough to not have very strong uniform regulations when we were deployed. So we'd wear like a Nomex flight suit with a zipper up the front. So for speed, if we're like, oh, there's a boat right there, it just came out of nowhere, let's put some guys on the boat and drive up to them and just see what they're doing out here so you can get a close-up look instead of just asking them questions over the ship radio. So we go, okay, me and 2 other guys, we need the clipboard with the question sheet. There's like a specific question sheet we need to ask. And then we put our armor on, and we get, like, depending on the mission, maybe one guy grabs a rifle, one guy grabs a shotgun, and then the guy that's going to do a lot of writing might just keep his pistol in his holster. And you put your little gun belt on. Everyone gets a pistol. Depending on the operation, 1 or 2 or 3, or all the guys will grab a rifle.
So do you have to check these out?
We didn't when I was still active. Our office was our armory. So, one 20-foot by 10-foot room-ish, roughly, had our gun cases with locks on them, and it had, like, a projector where we could watch TV and movies and video games and shit, and then it had, like, our admin, like, a big case with, like, a traveling file cabinet with all our binders and manuals in it.
Right. Gotcha.
So like we're all in the room and we all are looking at each other, which is nice. And we all go, we're going to go check out a boat. I need you, and you. Okay, everyone else get out. We're going to load up real quick. And then we'd go to the side of the boat and they would bring their little Navy, they call it a rib, rigid hull, inflatable boat.
Mm-hmm.
Inflatable sponson, whatever. Rigid hull, inflatable boat. Yeah, it's like usually some type of small hard bottom boat with a sponson on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to, you can fit like 8 guys on there, but comfortably you can fit 0. So you get on and they lower that boat in the water, and then you climb down this, depending on the seas, like a 20-foot Jacob's ladder down the side of the Navy ship. You jump on the little attack boat, you drive over, you go, hey, we're with the United States Coast Guard, and they look at you, and they look at the Navy ship, and they go, and you go, yeah, don't worry about it, it's just legal stuff. What are you doing here? And they go, we're doing this. And you go, can you hand me your papers? And they go, yeah. And they hand the papers over. We look at them. Maybe we take pictures of them. Let's say we don't do the boarding. We come back to the boat. We check some intel, make some phone calls, and we go, you're released. And then every single operation, even if it's calm seas, our gear and our guns get completely drenched. So one of my favorite parts that I used to like to reinforce with the teams I was on was, okay, before we clean ourselves, we clean all our fucking gear. And because a lot of it needs to dry out, we fucking hose every single thing down that we have, and we hang it all out to dry on the outside of the Navy ship. Then when it's done, we oil all the metal stuff we have. We wipe them down dry, oil them, put them back together, put all the guns back in the cases, put all the gear back where it goes, and then the rest of the night is yours. So that was a rough outline of a deployment day at one of my drug units.
Nice.
We'll make this one even shorter. I super promise. This is law enforcement. I wake up around 4 in the afternoon. I shove something in my mouth to eat real quick. It's like 5 or 5:30 now, so I got to shave my face. I get my uniform on. I got to put it on in a specific order, so it's, pants. My shoes are by the front door because you don't want that gross crap in your house.
Yeah.
So pants, socks, underwear, and then your undershirt, and then your vest, or however you want to do it. Then you got to run your radio wire through your uniform and get that set up just right. And because I had these long, luscious locks of hair, I couldn't just throw my uniform shirt on. I had to first do my undershirt, then my vest, and then do my hair so I don't get anything on my shirt. Then put my shirt on, get my radio right, check my name tag and all my little buttons and pins. And then I had to take all the shit that goes in all my different pockets. So a notepad in one pocket, wallet in the other pocket, everyday carry, keychain in the other pocket, backup gun in my front left pocket, other notepad in my left breast pocket, and my right pocket had my phone. And I'm like, oh shit. So cool. Now I go out to I was lucky to have a take-home car, so I go get in the driveway, and this is like maybe an hour before shift starts, so it's like 6 p.m. So I carry my computer into my car. We were allowed to leave our shotguns in our car, if I remember correctly. I think we were. So my shotgun's in the car. If you had a rifle, a lot of people would bring their rifles in at night and then back out to the car in the morning. So I worked night shift, so it's almost 6 o'clock. I bring my laptop in the car, plug it into the middle console, let that turn on, which takes a couple minutes. Start the car, let that cool down, that takes a couple minutes. Computer finally warms up, and there's like a 3-step verification. So I plug in a password, then I plug in a secret number, then I plug in another thing, and I'm like, fuck, computer is still warming up. Start the internet, because I'm going to need that, and that slowly starts to boot up. I'm like, motherfucker, the whole time. Then I open up 6 different programs, all of them have different passwords, and then I open up dispatch, and then I get my radio set, and I put my belt radio and my in-car radio to the same channel, or different channels, however I want it. Call in, hey, I'm not really on shift, but I'm in the car, and they're like, okay. And then I see where all the other cars are, and I start listening to the radio traffic about all the shit that's winding down from the night before. It's 6:30 now. Start driving to work, and I'm like, please don't anyone stop me for bull crap. I just want to make it to the squad meeting. And then I get to the squad meeting. And like I said earlier, every agency, every state, every city, every county is different. So this was a generalization from my point of view. Our squad meetings weren't great. They were supposed to be used for training. No training ever happened. I know other people that were my mentors in law enforcement that said a lot of team building happens during that. I never saw that happen. I just saw a lot of people bitch at each other. I saw a lot of judging. I saw a lot of not helping each other and complaining. So you sit through the squad meeting and you're like, we didn't have specific zones every day. Some people did, some people didn't, and I didn't like that either. I thought, well, this is much better than the military in some ways, but like, how do you not know what zone I'm going to work? Like, it's not that hard. So I find out what zone I'm working, and then you're released. So I go to my zone, and a lot of people don't know this either, but unless you like pack a lunch, you got to really specifically pay attention to how you're going to eat that shift. Because if you get one call, like if you start at 7 p.m. and restaurants close at 10, you have a small window to like order food and then wait for it to be prepared and then go pick it up in time and not get a call for an emergency in that time. So you're already starting to plan, when the fuck am I going to eat if I forgot my lunch? And then there's two things you can do on your shift. You either respond to calls that already happened, or you do your own self-initiated actions. And those are one you have to do, the other one's up to you. So you just do a mix of those two things throughout the night. On a very slow night for me, I would maybe respond to, on a slow night, I would respond to 3 or 4 calls. And then I would do my own like small bicycle stops or traffic stops or just get out and talk to people. And that was it.
Right.
And every call that I wrote a report for would be go to the call, handle the call, either make an arrest or write a report or, bring something to evidence or whatever. So after the call's over, first thing I do is I get back in my car and I start typing. And like for every 5 minutes of work I did on the street, it's like 20 minutes of typing. And it's just motherfucking my computer. Like, okay, what's this person's name? John A. Smith. And you click like, okay, we'll find him in the computer. Okay, great, that should help. And then there's no John Smith in the computer. You're like, fuck. So now you have to plug in and create a specific file for this person, which is a pain in the ass. Or if there is a file, you'll know this, if there is one for them, there's usually 30 and you have to pick the right one.
Yep.
And if you don't have time or if you don't want to do it, you get in trouble because you should have picked the one in the computer because there's already a file. Why would you create a double? Well, assholes, because there's 30. And it's not like CIA, on the movies where they're like, oh, look at his earlobes. We'll match it with his file. Oh, there he is. That's him. We're like, okay, there's 3 of them and they all have real similar socials. They all have real similar addresses. And now we have to dig through the dates. So I'm just motherfucking my computer. I type up the report and then we were real redundant. So you had to type it, save it, send it to your sergeant. It gets approved. Then you go back to the district and you print it. But then some of it goes in the filing cabinet in the district and some of it you put in an envelope and some of it you bring with your arrestee. And then we were not in the 21st century. So when I was all done with that, I go to the next call. And the problems that I had with a lot of that was if it was a busy day in the life, you would handle 2 or 3 calls. And then when you finally got some breathing room, you would start writing the report about the first case.
Yeah, that sucks. That's the worst.
And I felt bad. Like I preferred, unless someone's actively like getting shot at, my personal preference was I did this case. I'm going to go write this report. I'm going to make sure it's correct because if I forget something, I don't want to have to leave a different scene to go back to the first scene and look like an idiot to get more information. So I liked to write all my cases on the call that I was on. But a lot of cops were like, well, you're busy writing that report and I'm out taking your calls in your zone. I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm doing work. Like yeah. So sometimes you get backtracked and you have to backlog 3 reports that you're typing up, and it is.
That's one of the good things about EMS is we run a call. It's my call. The other guy drives. So when we leave the hospital,
oh, that's nice.
We're driving back. I'm working on the report. Now sometimes you don't get very far before you get a call, and that happens 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and then. You're like, God, I got a 5-hour break, but I've been doing paperwork the whole time.
And that's it. I told you this one was going to be shorter. All night in my cop car, it was just a mix of 2 things: handling calls that I had to go to, and then investigating my own things that I wanted to investigate. I just switched between those 2 things all night, and then shift was over, and I drove home.
Awesome. All right. Well, excuse me. That's the end of episode 73. Don't forget, we'll be changing formats to the new show in the very near future. Just stay tuned. We'll announce the new social platforms and listening options along during the next few shows.
Hey, you're cutting out,
If
so
you-
let me take over here.
Am I?
Yeah, on my end you're cutting out, so I'll do it
Okay, go ahead.
from here. We will be changing formats soon, so we'll announce all the updates as they come across and all the platforms you can listen to as they start going online. And if you want immediate updates, the best way to get that is to be in this awesome group of people that we are trying to create a community for on our Discord server, which is the Insurgency Knitting Circle Discord channel. And the links will be in today's show notes on Uncensored Tactical and wherever else you're listening to this at. And if you can't find that, or if we mess it up, then go to uncensoredtactical.com and click Contact, and there's a direct link to our Discord channel. Thanks so much for checking out the podcast, and we hope to see you next time. And we hope you found some value in this show. Please hit us up with questions, comments, and concerns. You can do that on Uncensored Tactical at Contact, or you can hit us up on Discord. I was just so excited. I'm fucking stuttering all over the place. I just love it.
I answered the phone the other day at the store and I said, Burgess and General Taylor store. And, no, what did I say? Oh, fine. I don't even remember. It doesn't matter. It was all jumbled up though. Person was like, okay.
Hey, you suck. Let me take over. That's all right. I suck too. All right. Minute 116. All right. So we'll play the outro music over this right now. Let's do a quick bonus at the end here, which we'll keep it
okay.
I'll try to keep it short. 116. So Grimoire on Discord sent me a really cool link for a clear acrylic lockpicking box.
Really?
And it's got two holes in the front that are you put your hands through, and then you're handcuffed inside those two holes.
What?
So you can't pull back and take your hands out. And
you can't pull out?
Yeah, you can't pull out. I know that's bad life advice. No, good life advice. Yeah. So no pulling out. So you're handcuffed, and then inside that box, like on the ground, like on the floor of that box, is a padlock with a lockpick, like a tension wrench and a rake. And there's a padlock on a smaller acrylic box that has a handcuff key. So you pick open this padlock, and that unlocks the small acrylic box. You take the handcuff key out, and you pick your own handcuffs open with the handcuff key. You take your hands out of the box, you go around to the side of the box, and there's like a 4-digit code and scraps of paper. And I don't know the details, but I don't know if it's like a secret to the code you have to guess or something like that. But I mean, obviously we can modify it. So then you hit this, it's kind of like that realtor box I posted. So I guess you punch in some sort of 4-digit code, or you decode it with your hands, or whatever you do, and then that opens, and you get another key, and then you have to pick open a padlock that's outside the box. And I'm like, it was so cool. I loved it. Like, that's right up my alley. I think I'll probably make one out of some wood, so you can't see inside of it.
Ooh.
But maybe I'll leave the top open so we can video it, but the person doing the drill can't see it, or something like that. Or I guess you can always achieve the same thing with a blindfold. I don't know. We'll work out the details. But Grim tagged me in it, and he said, we need to do one of these. And I'm like, fuck yeah, it's already in the works.
That's awesome.
And then, so that's one thing I wanted to tell you at the end of the show, was that box that he sent me. So I was like super into it, and you were talking about something, and I was like, I'm here.
I remember.
The next one was... which one was it? You were talking about doing Skype workouts or something, or Skype relay races. I know that the Discord, the Reddit community on their lockpicking subreddit, they mail each other locks, and like they specifically pin them as a challenge lock, and then they mail them to people in the community, and then they take a picture or video of them opening it.
Nice.
But that's it. Like, that's about as complex as it is. Hey, here's another one, different layout. Good luck. Like, that's it. So
we could use
that format. Mm-hmm.
We could use Zoom, and we could get a whole bunch of people on at the same time, and it could be locks. We could have like 10 locks, and send them out to 10 different people or whatever. and then get on Discord or get on Discord, get on Zoom, chat, drink, and pick locks. Like have races. Like maybe if you lose, all the losers have to take a shot, and then you reset the log and do it again, and then the losers have to take a shot.
There's so many different games we can play with that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
We could do field stripping weapons. We could have races on that. Dude, we could do all sorts of cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah, I forget. I forget where I was going to go with that. Exactly. I had a great idea in my head. Something about decoding a lock or some sort of fucking race. I don't know.